If you feel overwhelmed, that's not because you have too much to do. It's because of how you are approaching what it is that you want to do. To feel less overwhelmed, you have to change your approach. You can feel calm and in control even if you have lots of things on your plate. You just have to develop two key habits. So let me share those two key habits with you. Now, first, in case you're new, my name is Peter Uckes, and I teach people how to be more productive and how to achieve their big goals. In this video, I'll be mentioning some habits, some techniques that you can use to feel less overwhelmed. And I have some free resources that will actually help you develop these habits to make them a part of your life. And those free resources are in the description below the video. So if you like what you hear in this video, just check out those free resources after you watch the video. Okay, back to overwhelm. A very common cause of feeling overwhelmed is this anxiety, this worry about whether you're working on the right thing. Should I be working on something else right now? And the more things that you have on your plate, the more things you feel that you need to do, the more things that you want to do, the more things you could be doing instead of whatever it is that you're currently doing at any given time. So actually, this feeling of overwhelm can get worse the more you take on, but it doesn't have to be that way. You can periodically step back and make sure that you're working on the right things. And by doing so, you can remove that anxiety, that worry of whether you are working on the right thing, and you can simply execute. So I want to share with you two key habits that I want you to develop that are going to help you feel calmer and feel productive and feel in control of what it is that you want to do. Now, I know that when I say that there are two things that I want you to do to feel less overwhelmed, you might be thinking, no, Peter, I already have way too many things to do. I don't want to have even more things that I need to do. But hear me out on this one, because this is a situation where these two habits are going to help you feel less overwhelmed and help you be more productive, even though they will take a little bit of your time. The first of these two habits is the weekly review. In a weekly review, you take half an hour or an hour and you sit back and you say, hey, what is on my plate right now? You just update your to-do list. That's the gist of it. We can get a lot more detailed than this, and if you want more details, you want to check out my free weekly review cheat sheet. That's in the description below the video. But the gist of it is really, you simply update your to-do list. You see what's coming up and what you should be working on. By doing this once a week, you really feel inside the week itself that you can execute. You can give yourself permission to execute on the plan that you made. And this will remove some of that anxiety of, should I be working on something else? Now, let me give you a quick demonstration of what the weekly review looks like in practice for me, just so you get a sense of this. And we'll do this also for the quarterly planning in a little bit. So what I have in my task manager is a repeating project titled Weekly Review. I repeat it on every Sunday because Sunday is a good time for me to do it. And it has a bunch of steps. Now, your weekly review doesn't need to have all of these steps. This just happens to be my weekly review, and I just want to share it with you so you get a sense of it, what it is, in case you're new to this concept. I like to start off by processing my physical inbox. On my desk next to me, I have a physical inbox where I put like letters from the government, things like that, mail that I receive, snail mail. I just like to go through that every now and then. I like to then process my email inbox. What does that mean? That means either replying to emails I haven't replied to yet that need a reply, or marking them as a reply later. I process my task manager's inbox all the way up top here, and that's just a way for me to be up to date with what's come into my life. Then I go through all of my areas and projects in my task manager and I just update them. So just make sure that everything is correct. Let's say there are tasks I've already completed, I check those off. New tasks that I hadn't put in the task manager yet, I'll put those in there. Or maybe something has a deadline that changed, I'll change the deadline. Just make sure everything is up to date. Then I'm a member of a public speaking club called Toastmasters, and I just check to see what's going on there. Do I have meeting roles for upcoming meetings, etc. I see what's coming up. Are there any deadlines coming up, perhaps, that I need to anticipate and start doing work for ahead of time? And I schedule tasks or projects for specific days to anticipate those deadlines if I need to. Finally, I'm a member of a private community where I keep a progress log on how I'm doing in my business and in life, and I just write a little update there. If this sounds like a lot of work, don't worry. Your weekly review could be a lot shorter, but this is for you a sense of what the process is like. And I swear, after I do this, every time I feel so much calmer and so much less overwhelmed and much more able to execute on what it is that I actually want to do. Now, I have a couple of tips for you in preparing the habit of the weekly review. And the first one is to make it fun. Okay, your weekly review should not be a chore. Don't make it something that you try to cram into some nook in your schedule. Make it a fun experience. Go to your favorite coffee place or anywhere else really where you love to sit and work and just think for a little bit. And if you don't have a space like that, go find a space like that. Make it fun. Give yourself the permission to really have a relaxing moment where you sit back and plan your upcoming week. Now, the second thing you can do to really establish this habit of the weekly review is to come up with a fixed time of the week to do it. So for many people, Sundays is a great time to do their weekly review, but really the best time for you is whenever you're most likely to get to it. So take a look at your schedule or think about your schedule and ask yourself, when are you most likely to have half an hour or an hour to sit back and just think about, hey, what's on my plate? What should I be working on in this coming week? And then the third tip for building a weekly review that I have is any review is better than no review. So even if you feel like I don't have an hour, I don't even have half an hour, do you have 15 minutes? Can you spend 15 minutes right now after you watch this video sitting back, looking at your to-do list and just updating it, maybe prioritizing it a little bit, or maybe even assigning certain tasks to certain days? Okay, try and do part of a review. Any review you do is better than no review. So if you have to start small, which is often a great way to build new habits, then start small. Do that. Don't feel that you have to spend 2 hours a week. Shouldn't be taking 2 hours to begin with, but don't feel that you have to be spending that much time. You can do it in a very lightweight form, and it'll still be much better than doing nothing and help you feel less overwhelmed. Now, the second habit that I want you to develop is the habit of quarterly planning. Now, the name reveals how often you should do this. This is something you should do once every 3 months. So I'm recording this on October 2nd. This means a new quarter has just started. So for me, this is a great time to do some quarterly planning. And in fact, I will be very shortly doing my quarterly planning exercise. So quarterly planning differs from the weekly review. The weekly review is more tactical. Here's my list of tasks. Is my list of tasks still correct? Do I need to update it? What am I going to work on this week? Quarterly planning, you step even further back, or you can think of it as going further up, right? You get away from that ground level a little bit. It's less tactical, more strategic. In quarterly planning, you ask yourself, hey, what are my goals? Literally my goals in life. What are they? Hopefully you have a list of your goals. If you don't, you really should check out my free mini course, The Essentials of Big Picture Productivity, that will help you with your goal setting a little bit. So hopefully you have a list of your goals, and during your quarterly planning, once every 3 months, you go update that list of goals. Make sure it's still accurate, and then you're going to identify action steps for each of those goals. So you're going to say, hey, for all these goals that I have, what is it that I'm actually going to do to achieve my goals? And of those action steps, which ones am I going to work on in the next 3 months? Okay, that's the basic process. And this has the same effect as the weekly review, just at a higher level. It has the effect of you knowing, hey, this is what I've decided to work on in the next 3 months. So then during the 3 months, you can stop worrying about which direction you're going in and just execute. You can give yourself the permission to execute, and that will have you feeling less of that anxiety, less of that overwhelm, because you're like, hey, I can't do everything, but I know that what I am working on right now is the right thing to work on. In the same way that I gave you a little quick peek into how I do my weekly review, let me show you the same thing for quarterly planning. So I've got a project. It repeats every 3 months on the first day of a new quarter. And actually, because I'm recording this on October 2nd, yesterday, a new copy of this project got generated. So I'll open that one, and that is quarterly planning. So it has a bunch of steps, and again, your quarterly planning doesn't need to be like this. The last thing I want you to do is watch this video and be like, oh my God, something else that I need to do. It's not like that. This is just like some very simple steps. Yours could be shorter, but something that I do periodically every 3 months that helps me, clarify my direction and make me feel more in control, less overwhelmed, less worried about whether I'm working on the right thing. First, I like to journal a little bit about how the previous quarter went. That's optional for you. You don't have to do that. Doesn't it takes me a couple minutes maybe. Then I like to update my list of goals. I have a list of goals. I won't show you in this video how I keep that list of goals, but you can find other videos of mine where I show how to do this, and also my mini course, which is in the description below the video, will show you how I do that. For each goal that I have, I just write a sentence or two about why that matters to me. This is such a valuable thing to do, by the way. Anytime you're goal setting, just ask yourself, why is this something that I want? Whatever kind of goal it is, personal goal, business goal, hobbies, family, doesn't matter. Write down why this matters to you, because you can often get great insights from that. I identify some key action steps for each goal. So often, it's tempting for us to say, hey, I have these New Year's resolutions. This year I'm going to do this, or hey, I'm going to do these things. Okay, but how? How are you going to do those things? Literally, what are the action steps that you're going to take? So don't skip this step. Define action steps. Then I'll say, hey, I've got all these action steps for all of my goals. I don't have time to work on all of these things in the coming quarter. Which ones am I going to work on in the coming quarter? And which ones am I going to postpone till later? And this also is such a great way of reducing that feeling of overwhelm, because by saying to yourself, I'm going to work on this quarter, you're also implicitly saying, I'm not going to work on those other things this quarter. So you give yourself permission to not work on those other things this quarter, and you remove that anxiety, that worry, should I also be doing more on XYZ? No, because you've deliberately made the decision not to. I just make sure that I transfer those key action steps to my task manager, because I do this planning just in a notes app. So then those action steps I'm going to work on this quarter, put those in my task manager. Then I make a further distinction. This is really optional. It's advanced. You don't need to do this, but I find this helpful. And I say, hey, within this coming quarter, there's 3 months. Which things am I going to do in the next 2 weeks? And which things am I going to do in the rest of the 3 months? And I just make a distinction between those things. And finally, again, I'm a member of a private community where I update my plan. I post my plan there and I share it with people for some accountability. So that was a little sneak peek into how I do my quarterly planning, but yours doesn't need to be quite this comprehensive. I also have a couple of tips for you on how to actually get to your quarterly planning. And the first of those is to find a nice and quiet place to do this. So because you're going to be thinking about the direction of your life, or at least of the next 3 months of your life, you really don't want this process to be interrupted by kids or your partner or your coworkers or whatever. So put yourself in a nice quiet spot where you can take 2 or 3 hours and just think about the direction of your life a little bit in an uninterrupted way. Again, make it fun as you can make it, the same way for the weekly review, okay? The second tip is not to take this process too seriously. Like, it's easy to say, oh, I have to figure out my whole life plan right now, but that's difficult. Reflecting on what it is that you want is a process that happens over time. And so write down your list of goals if you didn't have it already, or update your list of goals if you had one. And then remember that you're going to be doing this again in 3 months, okay? So at the very least, once every 3 months, you're going to have a time when you're going to check in with yourself and say, hey, what are the things I want to achieve? And am I heading in the right direction? What am I doing to achieve those things? And so don't worry if you don't have everything figured out right away, okay? The third tip is to be honest with yourself. This is important, okay? A lot of times when I'm working with students or clients or anybody, they'll tell me that they have certain goals, but they feel like they cannot pursue those goals. They cannot really even move in the right direction. So maybe you're like, hey, I really want to go travel for 3 months, but I have young kids and I just can't do it. I have my kid and I have to take care of the kid or kids. Still be honest with yourself and write down that one of your goals is to go traveling. Don't say, no, I can't do that because I have kids. No, that's something that you want. So be honest with yourself, acknowledge your desire to do this. Because even if you can't act on it right now, acknowledging what it is that you really want will help you eventually get that thing, even if you can't get to it right now. I know that you might feel that you have so much to do already, and that doing these weekly reviews and the quarterly planning is just more work and it's going to make you feel more overwhelmed. But it's not that way. It's exactly the opposite. This is a case where more is less. More planning, more reviewing means less overwhelm. The return on investment of the time that you spend on this is amazing. So don't think of this as a chore. Think of it as something that is a healthy maintenance activity. In the same way that going to the gym is a great maintenance activity for your body, this is a great maintenance activity for your mind that will pay off in the end. And with that, I'll invite you to check out 2 free resources that I have that will help you build these habits of the weekly review and the quarterly planning. The first is a weekly review cheat sheet, and you can find both of these links, by the way, in the description below the video. The weekly review cheat sheet is a great starting place for you to design your own weekly review from. So just go ahead and grab that, and just lists exactly what you should do for a solid weekly review. The second one is my free mini course, The Essentials of Big Picture Productivity. So I have a course which is called Big Picture Productivity. This course is the essentials of that, and it teaches you a simple way to set goals, to define action steps for your goals, and then to figure out, hey, what am I going to work on when in a quarterly planning process? So go check out those free resources. I think you're going to really love them. And after that, all I can do is wish you a very nice rest of your day. Thanks for watching.